Today, let's talk about a book published on February 27, 2024, titled, Look Again, The Power of Noticing What Was Always There. The two authors of this book are quite renowned. One is Tali Sharot, a cognitive neuroscientist from University College London and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The other, you might have heard of, is Cass R. Sunstein, a Harvard professor, widely cited as one of America's most cited legal scholars, known particularly for co-authoring the influential book, Nudge, with Richard H. Thaler, who later won the Nobel Prize in Economics. Sunstein himself was awarded the Hallberg Prize by the Norwegian government, often referred to as the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in Humanities. Sharot and Sunstein's new book discusses the latest research on a psychological phenomenon known as habituation, which refers to a phenomenon where individuals become accustomed to familiar stimuli without realizing it. In simple terms, habituation is when you gradually lose responsiveness to familiar things. It means that even if there's a strong smell here, you won't notice it after being here for a while. From a microneuroscientific perspective, when you encounter a new environment, neurons quickly and intensely report the surrounding information to you. But once you've been there for a while, even though that information still exists, the frequency of neuronal signaling decreases. We've talked about this phenomenon before. A more macroscopic explanation is that various physical information from the external environment needs to be converted into signals understandable by the brain, requiring transduction proteins to form so-called ion channels. The response of ion channels to external stimuli is not determined by the intensity of the stimulus but by the change in stimulus intensity. Without change, you become habituated, and you don't feel it anymore. For example, you can conduct a small experiment with these two pictures. Each has a dot in the middle, surrounded respectively by a light green circle and a mass of black fog. Stare at the dot in the middle for 30 seconds, and you'll find that the outer green circle and the black fog both disappear. Even if you dislike the smell of smoke, after spending some time in a smoke-filled meeting room, you won't notice the smell. When the air conditioning hums loudly in your home during the summer, you'll initially find it unpleasant, but soon, you won't hear it anymore. Our brain's attention is limited, focusing more on reacting to changes, especially unexpected ones. That's why you don't usually feel your socks on your feet. You've understood this principle for a long time, but I dare say, people generally don't know the details of the dynamic process behind it, leading to erroneous judgments. Habituation is useful to us, but it can also lead us to make misjudgments, thus missing opportunities for change. Especially if you're living in a bad environment, you might take it for granted without realizing you can change it. You need to look again. Let's talk about 3 basic principles in this part. The first principle is, no matter how good something is, you'll get tired of it due to habituation. We often hear about those regrettable celebrity marriages in the entertainment industry. Two people, both exceptionally good individuals, beautiful and highly qualified, start off with a grand love story, and should be very happy together. So why do they divorce within a few years? In the eyes of marriage experts, this is just human nature. The common rule is that marriage does indeed make you happy at first, happier than before you got married. But this happiness only lasts for about 2 years. After 2 years, the intimacy and comfort between spouses continue to increase, but the passion, that excitement, especially sexual excitement, diminishes. Habituation kills excitement, leading to aesthetic fatigue. Marriage cannot be experimented with, but scientists can use other experiments as analogies. In the US, there's a classic staple food called macaroni and cheese, loved by many. In an experiment, a group of people who loved macaroni and cheese were asked to eat it every day for a week. What do you think happened? At first, they found it delicious, but over time, they wanted to eat it less and less. They said they were tired of it, but in reality, they had just become accustomed to it. Habituation is an evolutionary setting for us. It's because of this setting that we can maintain a sense of ambition in life. No matter how much you achieve, you'll always feel it's not enough, so you strive for the next achievement. Imagine if the prince and princess lived happily ever after getting married, laughing foolishly every day at each other. That wouldn't seem right either. This principle can explain many things. As readers of our column already know, spending the same amount of money, if it's for an experience, like going on vacation, dining at a good restaurant, or attending a sports event or concert, it brings more happiness than buying a material possession. Previously, we thought this was a new pursuit of modern people, but Sharot and Sunstein provide a deeper explanation in their book. The level of happiness is the retrospective response of people. At the moment you spend the money, you actually experience the same level of happiness whether you buy a new fridge or go on a vacation to the Maldives. But as time passes, the fridge will habituate you. It's there in your kitchen every day, so you quietly feel it's just okay. But memories of a wonderful vacation become more vivid over time. According to the peak-end rule, you remember only the highlights. It's similar to a passage in Eileen Chang's novel, Red Rose, White Rose. Marrying a red rose, over time, the redness turns into a smear of mosquito blood on the wall, while the white remains the moonlight before your bed. Marrying a white rose, the white is the rice stuck on your clothes, while the red is the cinnabar mole on your heart. We just get used to what's in front of us. So, do you think everyone should divorce regularly? Of course not. I remember there was an article circulating online saying, the highest realm of picking up girls is picking up your own wife. Yes, this part of the principle will elevate you to a higher level. The second principle comes from the economist Tibor Satovsky, 1910–2002, known for his in-depth study of the relationship between human happiness and consumption. Satovsky has a famous saying, "Pleasure comes from the incomplete and intermittent satisfaction of desires." Let's first talk about intermittent satisfaction, which involves breaking down a good experience into several stages, interspersed with intervals of time, rather than experiencing it all at once. This approach allows you to enjoy the same experience at different times. Since continuous and frequent experiences lead to habituation, we use intervals to avoid habituation. Take the experiment with eating macaroni and cheese again. Another group of participants were instructed to eat it only once a week for several weeks in a row. The result was that their love for this dish did not diminish, and they still found it delicious each time they ate it. So, a secret to a good marriage is for spouses to have occasional brief separations. This is especially true for women. If a woman becomes a housewife after marriage, staying at home every day, facing the same environment and the same person day in and day out, even if your home conditions are good and your spouse is handsome, you'll get tired of it. But if this woman has a job, it's even better if she can occasionally go on a business trip for a few days. Then, every time she returns home, she'll see her marriage and life with fresh eyes. This is also what's known as, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Studies suggest that, there are two most effective ways to increase a spouse's attractiveness, and this is one of them. You see how simple this method is? But people often don't realize it. For example, if you enjoy listening to music, and you're about to attend a concert, would you prefer to listen to the whole concert at once, or would you like a break in the middle? 99% of participants believed that taking a break would worsen their experience. They thought that listening from start to finish in one go would be the most enjoyable. They were wrong. Live experience reports show that participants who had breaks during the concert would be willing to spend twice as much money to attend the concert again compared to the control group who didn't have breaks. This is because the break disrupts habituation. Whatever you do during the break, you can restart appreciating the music with a fresh perspective. As for incomplete satisfaction, it means not fully exploring and understanding something at once, retaining a sense of mystery and unknown about it. Another effective way to increase a spouse's attractiveness is to observe him, or her, in an unfamiliar setting. Maybe this time you're watching him, or her, from a distance, or he, or she, is engaging in a deep conversation with a stranger. You're seeing him, or her, from the perspective of an outsider, rediscovering him, or her, and finding new traits. Of course, even the best couples can't fully understand each other 100%, but if you want to maintain attractiveness, you should actively cultivate some mystery. Both parties should continue to grow and frequently reveal new traits. In an experiment about playing games, researchers asked participants to report their level of happiness every few minutes. The results showed that the happiest moments weren't when they won the game or made the most money. Although they were certainly happy then too. But the happiest moments were when players were learning how to play the game and exploring its settings. By contrast, if you master all the information about the game at once and can complete the game tasks quickly, people would report not liking the game. Sharot and Sunstein believe this explains midlife crises to some extent. People continue to grow and learn new things when they're young, but as they reach middle age, life becomes fixed, repeating the same patterns every day, which can easily lead to boredom and even depression. The principle, pleasure comes from the incomplete and intermittent satisfaction of desires, can also be used in reverse, which brings us to the third principle. Unpleasant things are best done together in one go. For example, if you're planning a major cleanup, which will take about 30 minutes, including cleaning the toilet, how would you tackle it? Surveys show that most people believe it's best to take a break in the middle, but they're wrong. Live experiments show that completing the task all at once provides the best experience. The reality is that only the first few minutes are the toughest, then you get used to it. In this case, habituation is your friend. In summary, happiness should be spaced out, because you don't want to habituate to it. Pain should be concentrated because habituation can alleviate pain. This principle is very simple, but few people actively apply it. For example, studies have shown that, after 43 hours into a vacation trip, people's happiness reaches its peak. By then, you've arrived at your destination, settled in, and are actively exploring, so you feel particularly happy. After that, your sense of happiness decreases, because you're getting used to the place. So, if you consider this, if you have 2 weeks of vacation each year, you should split it into 2, visit 2 different places, with a few months in between, rather than spending 2 weeks at once in one place. I think the most important spirit here is that people should actively regulate their own sense of happiness. Happiness is not something that passively happens to us. You can actively seek it out. And various studies have shown that people often lack that initiative. People tend to habituate excessively. We'll talk more about this in the next lecture. That's it for this part. In the next part, we'll talk about, this too shall pass.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.